So the first episode we get Martha, and she is immediately amazing. She's always been one of my favorite companions. Um, it's really cool to see her here. Um, Pretty good start to an episode, though she clings on to the fact that the doctor kissed her, even though he explains why he did it. Um, I guess it makes sense because for whatever reason, the show keeps making the companions fall in love with him, but it's kind of dumb in my opinion. Um, Martha was definitely a badass, though, and definitely not homophobic and way more tolerant than Rose was. Because, geez, Rose could be an ass for no reason at all, just straight up calling waiters daft for no reason. But pretty good introduction. They go to space. We see her sister. I thought I was going to see her family more, but we honestly don't see them that much throughout the show until the two-parter, and you still don't see them that much. I thought they were going to be like Jackie, where we'd at least see one of them a bunch, but apparently not. The most we got to see was the sister. The second episode was about Shakespeare, which I think I might have said the dude from the first season with Christopher Eccleston was Shakespeare. I don't know why, but I think I did. Um, it's an alright episode, just like that one. It isn't that fun. It's okay. We get the doctor flirting with Shakespeare, kinda. More Shakespeare flirting with him. We get, they try and curb off racism in this episode, but they deal with it later. I hate how weird they'll deal with racism one episode, and they'll act like racism still exists in the past, but in another episode in the past, it doesn't exist. They're in like the 1500s or something, and he's like, well, this city's like your city. Even though Shakespeare definitely says some racist shit to her. Um, but yeah, the doctor basically is like, oh yeah, well, it's just like London in your time. It's not racist. Even though she was worried about being carted off as a slave, which is a pretty good worry, because it's the 1500s. The third episode continues the Cassandra arc. It was actually my very first episode of Doctor Who. And I had thought it was just a movie at that time until I later found out that there was more, and it was a TV show. Absolutely amazing episode. Maybe be a little biased since it was my first episode. It's just really fun to watch. Cassandra's motive, I think they should have explained it. Like they made a big deal out of it in the first season that her motive was 5 billion years and it still comes down to money. What's her motivation here? Like, yeah, she wants Rose's body, but why? She's been sitting in this basement for who knows how long. What has she been doing down there? What is she doing? Was she gonna get somebody else's body instead of Rose's? That she was just lucky Rose landed there? She was clearly setting up for a body, but she doesn't explain who she was gonna get or whatever. She hated that humans advanced in society and changed, so I doubt she would have done one of the cat nurses or anything like that. And most humans are dead, so I really don't get what she was doing down there. It's still an amazing episode. She wasn't a very good character as a person. Like, I do like the character, though. But it's still satisfying to see her get a somewhat happy ending, being told she's beautiful one last time before she passes away. Just, really good episode. Now we get to another two-parter. We get the Dialects episodes, which are pretty good. They somewhat deal with racism here, but not very well. We get Andrew fucking Garfield. I knew he was in this show. He wasn't one of the ones I forgot. There are some guest actors that I forgot were in it that I will talk about later. But I knew Andrew Garfield was in this show. When I first watched the episode, I didn't years ago. But I was very excited and waiting for the Andrew Garfield episodes. He doesn't do too much, but luckily he doesn't die. He's a very interesting character. He's very sweet. Um, but he doesn't do that much. He's a glorified side character. There's several scenes where they don't even explain where he is, and he's just gone, even though he was in that scene like 20 seconds ago. Um, they get there's like these pig monsters, which reminds me of something that happened in the first season. Um, the Daleks are trying to be good. At least one of them is. They have decided they want to advance, and they realize that genocide is wrong, and one of them is becoming, more human. Eventually, the Daleks kill him because they still want to be pure, because that's what the Daleks are in their mind, even though this one's advancing. But the Daleks end up getting away or whatever, some of them, because Doctor Who always needs the Daleks. The Daleks are fun. I've always loved their exterminate and that their motivation is just pure hatred of the human race. It's not something you see often. But Doctor Who definitely uses them a lot. A bit too much sometimes. A lot of people overhate it though, like even creating conspiracy theories that they have to use them at least once every season. No, they just use them because it draws in viewers. Still 2 pretty good episodes, and it gets a somewhat happy ending where her boyfriend gets to live, and they get to live together quietly. Even though he has a little bit of a face of a pig now, he still looks human, unlike the other ones. Episode 6 is by far one of the most forgettable episodes of the series. I didn't even realize what it was going to be about for quite a while, even though I've seen it before. It has some good elements, but it just really isn't worth the watch. They reference it again in the finale, and somewhat connect that and said that the Master was a part of that plan, but I still didn't really enjoy it. It wasn't very good. The next episode, they get trapped on a planet that is hurtling towards the sun. It's a decent episode. It reminds me a lot of the previous season with the Devil episode with David Tennant and Rose. It was just fine. The Doctor ends up realizing that they've been scooping out orbs from the sun and basically killing it because this sun is a living creature, and it decided to fight back. It's an okay episode. Martha shows that unlike Rose, she doesn't care if you're gay because there's this guy she gets along with, and she ends up asking him if he has a girlfriend or a boyfriend. She ends up kissing him before she leaves, but she doesn't bring him with him, and he's never really mentioned again. She's still fascinated with the Doctor. Now, this one is another 2-parter. By far one of my favorites in the series. The Doctor is running from these people, and he wants to make sure that they haven't seen her face, and they haven't seen his face. And he tells her that he's going to have to become human, and he's going to put the Time Lord in a watch. And if he needs it, she's supposed to open it. For some reason, though, she lets him have it? Like, you think she would keep it on her? Like, why wouldn't she have it? If she's the one that has to go take it to him and convince him to open it, why does she just, sit it in his room? What if he accidentally opened it way sooner? Like, I don't get it. Little kid ends up stealing it. He accidentally opens it. That starts to make them realize the Doctor's there. He fucks him up. The parter ends with the Doctor had fallen in love while he was human with this girl. And he asked if the Doctor wants him to kill Martha or the girl, and that ends it right there. Of course they escape, People don't believe him. They get murdered. Martha's forced to tell him that his whole life is a lie, and that he isn't this person, and he has to be this lonely god, as he's been called throughout the series. Like, I don't know if he's been called it. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. But I know it's something they call him at some point in the show. So then he ends up basically torturing all of them and giving them eternal life like they wanted. And the episode I think it should have ended right there, but they put more into it, and it was fine with what they added. But it should have ended right when he decided to torture them and give them the eternal life they wanted. They say that the doctor had fought so many different monsters, but he ran away from us. It was because he was being kind. It is one of the most iconic lines in the show, and it's something I will always think about when I think of the Doctor. David Tennant does absolutely amazing as the Doctor. The next episode is about the Weeping Angels, which isn't as good as I remembered it. It's an episode that's talked up a lot as one of the best episodes in the show, but I think it was just good. It was at times kind of boring, and it just wasn't as good as I remembered. It's still a really fun episode. The ending's pretty cool, where she realizes that he doesn't know yet. So technically, she's kind of a time traveler. She gets to tell him the stuff she's going to need in the future, though the future's already happened. It's a really fun episode. The Weeping Angels is a pretty creepy concept that you're not even allowed to blink or these fuckers will kill you. And the way the Doctor helps them defeat some of them with having the TARDIS disappear and them all being forced to look at each other will always be one of the most iconic moments in Doctor Who. It just wasn't as good as I remembered. The next episode's called Utopia, where they accidentally travel to the end of the universe, and the Master is here. He had let the little kid keep the watch because there was nothing in it anymore, which was a mistake because eventually the Master somehow found essence in it, and yeah, it is kind of confusing, kind of weird. It's a fine episode. Martha accidentally makes this whole thing happen. Yet she never blames herself. I don't expect her to, but it is weird that she doesn't, because they usually do that in Doctor Who. There's this really sweet character that always says "though" after her sentences, because apparently if you don't, it's like swearing to her kind. She ends up getting killed by the Master, which sucks, but she also kills him, and he's forced to regenerate. I didn't even remember that there was someone else who played him before he was John Sim. I think that's the guy that plays this Master, and he does an amazing job. Then the episode kind of ends. Jack came back. I don't really like Jack. So then we get a two-parter. And the Master is awesome. I love the gag where he has to keep taking off the gas mask because he's too muffled for them to understand. He ends up getting killed by his own wife, and nothing actually happens to her, which is weird. You'd think the Master would have killed her at some point, but no, she ends up killing him, which is a pretty cool twist. You expect her to die, like her to rebel against the Master and realize she's gone too far at some point. But no, she just fucking shoots him after all the shit he put her through and put everybody through, and he dies in the Doctor's arms. He refuses to regenerate because he wants to at least win this. It's very cool. David Tennant's acting is insanely good in that scene. You can just feel the heartbreak of him losing one of his last of his kind. really good. They also have the twist that the face of Bo is Jack, which I completely forgot about that twist, but it makes sense. It's cool. It's not expected, but it's cool. Then we get a Christmas special episode on the Titanic. Um, that was a pretty cool episode too. I thought it was they actually did it on the Titanic. Maybe that's a later thing, but this version of the Titanic is like a floating spaceship based off of Earth. There's this guy Max that's doing this on purpose to kill a bunch of people, raise his stocks, you know, whatever. He was kicked out of his company, and he'll get those people that kicked him out of the company sued for mass murder. Um, Really cool episode. You know, it does the typical thing where this new girl is a love interest of the doctor, and she dies. Um, and this time he realizes that he can't save her, and he's trying so hard, and he thinks he can do anything, so he's absolutely frustrated that he can't do this. It's a really cool episode. And that's all of season 3.